talk about some historical fantasy mysteries. This is easily my favourite genre, niche in book spaces, and I have 6 books that I want to tell you about. First off, we have The Strange Case of the Alchemist's Daughter. This follows Mary Jekyll in the wake of her parents' death, leaving her penniless and kind of stuck. Her father, Dr. Jekyll, was murdered by his colleague, Edward Hyde. Mary finds a clue that Edward Hyde is potentially nearby and that there is a reward for his capture, which would solve all her money troubles. So naturally she goes and tries to find him, but instead she finds Diana Hyde, his daughter, a feral child in the care of some nuns. Together, they rope in the assistance of Sherlock Holmes and Dr. Watson, and they come across a few more, how do I put this, products of some unsavoury experiments to help them along the way. Those products being Beatrice Rappaccini, Catherine Moreau, and Justine Frankenstein. You can kind of see where this is going. This is a fun, comedic, dramatic reimagining of all of these characters, these female characters from stories of that era, all coming together, trying to solve this mystery and trying to help Mary get out of her shitty circumstances and then help each other get out of their shitty circumstances as well. It's a big old clusterfuck of, I guess, feminine rage to an extent, but also discussion of sort of the mistreatment of these women and highlighting their stories where they haven't been before. I loved it. I specifically loved the way that the story was told. I listened to the audiobook, which was a little confusing at first because all of these characters narrate the story. So the way that I pictured it in my head is that you've got the book in front of them where they're writing this story and they're all crowding over each other's shoulders and making notes and correcting each other and pointing out bits and that other people have forgotten, and it's all a bit of a clusterfuck. But Theodora Goss does a really good job of making it pretty clear once you understand what's going on. It's not too much. It's very endearing to have these characters tell you the story like that. It's very easy to get sucked into their plights and the shit that they've gone through in their lives, and I really, really loved it. It's a trilogy. The whole trilogy is great, though I will say I think the second book is nearly 800 pages long, which is a complete anomaly compared to the first and the third book. I think the second one could have been 2 books. But aside from that, I have 0 other complaints about this series. I really, really love it. In a very similar vein, the next book on this list is Strange Beasts by Susan J. Morris. This was one of the first bindery releases last year, and we follow the worlds of Sherlock Holmes and Dracula come together because we follow Samantha Harker, who is a researcher for the Royal Society for the Study of Abnormal Phenomena. Say that 3 times fast. And she gets the chance to work on a case with Helena Moriarty, who is the daughter of Moriarty from Sherlock Holmes. They are sent to Paris to investigate attacks that have been made by a beast, and they need to track this beast down and stop the murders from happening. And we follow them through this tangle of Parisian streets and catacombs and the opera and all the elements of Victorian Paris that you would want to see in a book. We go there. It is sapphic and it's a good rompy mystery. It is easy to follow and it has all of those elements that you love from stories like Sherlock Holmes and from Dracula and stories of that kind. I really, really loved it. There is a second book coming out either later this year or early next year. I'm not entirely sure. Really, really enjoyed it though. Next on my list is Anatomy, a Love Story. This book really took me by surprise when I first read it because I wasn't expecting to like it so much. It is not only historical fantasy mystery, it is also romance. It is a little light on the fantasy if fantasy is not quite your favourite part of this genre niche. But we follow Hazel Sinnott, who is the daughter of quite a well-off noble family, and we follow Jack, who is a resurrection man who goes to find the bodies that doctors and anatomists use to experiment on and practice on and learn from. But obviously grave robbing is illegal, so it's quite a dangerous profession. Hazel wants to be a doctor more than anything. She doesn't want to marry, she just wants to be a doctor. So she makes a bargain with Dr. Beecham, who is the resident doctor in the area in Edinburgh, I want to say we are. However, Jack also has a problem in that people are going missing. And not only are people going missing, but there are strange men skulking around the cemeteries, and it looks like the Roman fever, which was thought to be eradicated a very long time ago, is back in the city. Together, he and Hazel need to work out what is happening in the city. They're trying to get to the bottom of this mystery, while at the same time Hazel is trying to pursue this career as a surgeon while dodging marriage prospects, and it's all done really cleverly, and I really, really enjoyed it. Like I said, the fantasy element is quite slim. It's more a case of slightly preposterous science than it is actual fantasy. I think that works really, really well given the okay, Kat. Given the setting and given the type of story that we are talking about. This is part of a duology. The second book is just as good, and the second book dives more into more familiar characters you might recognise the names of from real life and from stories as well. And I think it's really well done. It's technically a YA book, but I think it reads absolutely fine for adults as well. It's not too patronising or immature or anything like that. It's a solid book with maybe a slightly predictable plotline, but it's really enjoyable to read, and it doesn't make you think too hard. And it is really gross as well, fair warning. It is really, really gross. Next up we have The Diviners by Liva Bray. This is a reasonably old series now. It is 4-book series, I believe, but it really, really holds up. We follow Evie, who is sent from her fusty old town to New York to live with her uncle who runs this museum. Evie is delighted. She is a flapper through and through. It is 1926. Everything is like Ziegfeld Girls. It is like the roaring 20s. Being in New York is exactly where she wants to be. Ratty's got the zoomies. The only problem is that she is trying to hide her supernatural powers that got her kicked out of her town in the first place, that got her into trouble there. If she picks up objects, she can read them. She can see memories of what happened to the person that owned those objects. And at first it seems quite fun, but then she gets herself in quite a lot of trouble. She runs into a motley crew of misfits in New York. And when people start dying and it turns out there is a serial killer on the loose, they decide they are going to track down the killer because it seems like there's something not quite normal about the murders, and it pricks up all of their individual, slightly supernatural elements to them. And that's where I'll leave it without spoiling it. What I really, really love about this series is how intricate the characters are and what a stark representation of America it is in the 1920s. It has a lot to say about things like classism, xenophobia, and eugenics. There's very strong themes all the way through that series. It is really well written. It is aimed at young adults, but again, it reads absolutely fantastically for adults as well. It is really, really well written, well thought out, and the plot is impeccable all the way through. I highly recommend the audiobooks. I think January Lavoie is the voice actor, and she does such a good job of all the accents, all the voices, and really makes each character their own. I absolutely loved the audiobooks of this series. They are quite chunky books, but it's so worth it. Next on my list is The Watchmaker of Filigree Street. We are in London in 1883, and we follow Daniel Stapleton, who comes back home to find just a random gold watch on his pillow, which he is thoroughly confused by. This watch ends up guiding him away from an explosion that would have killed him the next day, and he decides he's going to track down the maker of this watch, Keita Mori, who is a Japanese watchmaker living in Filigree Street, hence the name. We also follow Grace Carrow, who is a physicist from Oxford, and their lives meet in London as we are unpicking who Keita Mori is, the relations between Japan and England at this particular time in history, and we are trying to unpick exactly what's going on, how things are happening, and because Daniel works for the government, we get embroiled in this sort of political intrigue between Japan and England and Keita and why he is there and who he is. And it was a really unexpected read for me. I wasn't expecting to like it as much as I did. The plot is a little thin on this one, but I absolutely love some of the elements. I won't spoil all of the fantastical elements, but a lot of them come out in the clockwork in this book. And there is one particular clockwork piece that I absolutely adore, and when you get to it, you will know which one it is. Last on my list is A Natural History of Dragons, which follows Lady Trent, who is a dragonologist. I can't remember if they actually use that word to describe her, but she studies dragons, she's obsessed with dragons. And in the first book of 6, we follow her as she tries to launch her career in studying dragons and how she gets the opportunity in a world that is exactly like ours, except all the names are different and dragons exist. So misogyny is still a thing. She still has to marry someone rich in order to support her family, but she is going to find best way to do that, but also find dragons as well. She is the most autistic coded character I've read about in a long time, and she is obsessed with dragons. Like, that's the whole point of the book. This series is impeccable. We travel to a different part of the world in each book, tracking down a different dragon for a different reason, and it's told in diary entries, and it's just brilliant. The world building is brilliant because it obviously is heavily based in our world, so a lot of it is very familiar, but the science, the faux science behind the dragons is really clever, it's really logical, and the characters that Lady Trent finds and meets along the way and who tag along are just fantastic, and the misogyny quickly becomes a non-issue for people who don't love that in books set in this time period. I love the whole series so much, and frankly I think I'm due for a reread. That was a lot of claw in my leg, dude. Let me know if you have any other recommendations for historical fantasy mysteries. I'm always looking to read more, and I'm in a big old book slump at the moment, so I could use a little pick me up. Have you read any of these? Did you like them as much as I did? Do let me know. If you made it this far in the video, drop me the dragon emoji in the comments, and I will see you in the next video.